My story began right around the turn of the century. At that time, I had a 4-month-old infant who was at that point happy and growing well. Right around New Year's, as the millennium was kicking in, she became ill and wound up being diagnosed in an emergency kind of way with cavernous malformations. They were large, there were multiple, and the same day that she was diagnosed, she had her first brain surgery. I wasn't able to work anymore. I was a clinical psychologist by training, and I had to stop because we had so much medical involvement. I couldn't be fair to my patients. There was no control in this. The hemorrhages just happened, and at that time we didn't know how to prevent them, if we were doing anything that was making them happen more. We just had no answers, and we didn't have anybody to ask. We had our local specialists who were very nice people, but they weren't experts. We didn't know a single other family. And so that is how Angioma Alliance, at that point, what we were called then, came about, was trying to find answers, trying to find the other families first. I managed to find the one textbook that had the information about the illness, and I wrote to the editor, one of the editors who happens to be a neurosurgeon named Dr. Issam Mawad. And he wrote me back that afternoon. I told him I wanted to start a patient organization. He said, I think that's a great idea. Here are some things you could do, and I'd be happy to be your scientific advisor. And so we started together in May of 2002, wrote the website, he checked it out, and once it went up, people found us. This was 2002, so there wasn't Facebook, but we had a community bulletin board, and it didn't take long, just a few months, and people were starting to flood in because there had been nothing, and we created a space.
I would say we were shocked. I mean, we just
scared.
Worried. We just had a beautiful baby, and she hadn't even been here for a year yet.
Yeah, it's not something you hear about a lot. So hearing about this new disease that we had no prior knowledge of, that was going to greatly impact her life, was really hard.
Okay. Ugh. Emotions.
So that was from when we had genetic testing done. We got that done pretty shortly after her MRI and surgery, and that was when they told us that it was CCM3, and we learned about the severity.
Actually, like anyone these days, right after the diagnosis, Google, like just Googling like crazy, like what is this? And it came up in my search of, and I first focused on, there's so much information on the site, the fast facts, the one-sheeter, like what is this, like straight up education I took. I remember the first Zoom I attended was CCM 101, and that's how I learned all about like what it is, what all the terms are, like, and I've used that website for pretty much everything. Connie actually reached out, so she sent me an email saying, you know, I learned you're a new member and your daughter has CCM3, and she told me about her and her story and why she started the Alliance, and I told her mine, and it was honestly therapeutic. It was the first person I feel like really talked to that had been, their life had been impacted and is looking for anything that she can do, and that I like felt that as well in myself, so it was good talking to her. And she told me then about the CCM3 like Facebook group and all of that, specific to that community. I'm just glad that someone is thinking about CCM, and I want them to keep thinking about CCM and not lose momentum, and, you know, hope that we can find some type of treatment or cure soon.
20 years ago, there was nothing. There were no ways for patients to meet each other. There were no ways for researchers, honestly, to meet each other. They didn't know each other. There was no way to find great care. Nobody knew how to get it. There was no information on the internet for patients to learn and make good decisions for themselves or for their children. So in 20 years, we created a lot. We created first spaces. We created places for patients to meet each other, for researchers to meet each other. The researchers this year will have their 18th annual scientific meeting. It attracts scientists from 5 continents. That's one of the things I'm proudest of. The collaborations that have come out of the research meetings are what has driven the field forward. Over the course of the 20 years, we have moved forward so quickly in research, in part because they work together, because they collaborate, and they collaborate because that's the tone that we set, that we make sure that that there's trust and that there's respect. For patients, we have created opportunities for them to meet, either in person or online, and a whole network of centers of excellence where now people can go and know that they get good care. We created clinical care consensus guidelines that doctors use to make sure that they're following an appropriate standard of care. And they can hand those to their doctors and say, this is what you're supposed to be doing. We have a DNA and a tissue bank. We have a patient registry. We've brought industry in. We're the reason that a drug like BA 1049 happens. There's just been so much that in 20 years, it doesn't seem like very long, but the achievements have been huge.
Hi everyone, my name's Chris Gibson and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Recursion. I'm thrilled to join you this afternoon and share why all of us at Recursion are strong supporters of the Alliance to Cure Cavernous Malformation. Our mission at Recursion is to decode biology to radically improve lives. Our approach uses AI to broadly explore biology to find better medicines, especially for diseases like CCM with incredible unmet need. We initiated our phase 2 trial for CCM earlier this year and are actively enrolling patients. If you're interested in learning more about the trial, please visit clinicaltrials.gov and search Sycamore. Finally, I want to thank Connie and the entire team at the Alliance for your tireless advocacy and dedication to the CCM community. Your work is a critical force in amplifying the voices of people living with CCM, and we wouldn't be where we are today without your partnership. Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, the disease is very rare. So my perspective is these patients really need to be seen in the specialized centers. And there are centers of excellence. And the advantage of a center of excellence is not only knowing or seeing a lot of these patients, but also collaborating within different subspecialties.
So a typical neurosurgeon might see one cavernous angioma every 2 to 3 years in their busy practice. At the Center of Excellence, they would see several cases a week.
Centers of excellence are places that we can trust, that our patients can go to and get multidisciplinary expert care. So most of our patients see neurosurgeons, neurologists, some of them see geneticists, everybody has a radiologist in the loop. We know in our centers of excellence, because we vetted them, that in all those disciplines, they're getting expert care.
It gives you a level of expertise and familiarity with the disease. That's the first dimension. The second dimension is that to be a center of excellence, you have to be contributing knowledge about cavernous malformations, meaning doing research, teaching, educating patients. So the Center of Excellence has the second dimension of being a beacon in the community to help teach other practitioners about cavernous angiomas.
What a patient should feel confident with when they go into a center of excellence is that they are getting expert, integrated care. And then also, in order to qualify to be a center of excellence, they have to have a research program. And most of them have some sort of patient education program as well.
we're very proud that our Center of Excellence program is in a state of rapid expansion. Since July of 2021, the following institutions have been recognized or elevated. The University of Virginia Health System, Jackson Health System in Miami, Florida, Baptist Health and Wolfson Children's Center in Jacksonville, Florida, Ascension St. John Medical Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and our newest ones are the University of California in Los Angeles, became a clinical center, and Stanford Health in Palo Alto, California, became a center of excellence. So as you can see, expansion is really our key word, but also quality.
My name's Abby Kittrick. My daughter, Elle Kittrick, has CCM1. She is 9 months old. She was diagnosed at 6 months. We found out, we did the MRI. The neurosurgeon pulled us in to, go over the images with him. He explained that, she had these, bleeds in her brain. They had doubled in size and location since the previous MRI. At that point, I didn't know what we were dealing with, what we're up against. I didn't know if, our baby was going to live or die. They just dropped a bombshell on us and sent us on our way. The next day was a fog. We were waiting for this phone call from, this hematology oncology doctor. And I ended up calling the office a couple times because we weren't hearing from her. And, she finally called us at the end of the day, explained to us, what it was. She told us about Angioma Alliance, told us that you guys are a great support, that we should, use you as a resource, and just pretty much told us that, this was something that Elle was going to live with for the rest of her life. I was able to find Dr. Smith from Boston Children's, and it was a very quick process. I called his office. I spoke to Grace, I believe that's his assistant, and within a couple days later, I got a phone call out of the blue from Dr. Smith himself. And I was just blown away that, this doctor would take the time to call me personally and, talk to me, and just, it was like a breath of fresh air. With the Center of Excellence, there's just a different level of care.
My name is Tommy Calkins, and I became a part of the Alliance, I would say about a year ago, when I was diagnosed with CCM2, and the Alliance has been very helpful in educating me on my condition, which was something I don't believe that when I was treated outside of Center of Excellence that I received as much information as needed. I am in the UPenn, University of Pennsylvania network. My neurologist is Dr. Christy Yuan. And once I got to University of Penn and became a part of the Alliance, I understood that having Gamma knife, a procedure, could cause more mutations. So this was something that I wasn't aware of or made known of outside of University of Penn. It's scary to see that something that could have affected me, adversely, was being pushed as the main option to cure me outside of a Center of Excellence. When I got to UPenn, different things, I felt heard, I felt seen, and I felt that my opinion and my concerns were valued in this at UPenn.
Since last year, we have just done a variety of things with the funds. I think one of the things that folks will want to know right up front is that we are now funding research. We are funding focused ultrasound research. Focused ultrasound is a way to non-invasively remove a lesion, we hope. The researcher who's trying to develop this technology for the use in CCM was not funded by the National Institutes of Health in his last 2 requests. So we are offering the funding right now so that he can do the next experiments that hopefully will allow him to more successfully apply. One of the things that we're trying to find out is, can the lesions themselves be reduced with focused ultrasound, or will there be damage to surrounding brain tissue? Once we have an answer to that, he can move forward. That's one big pot of money. We have hired a clinical programs director who is expanding our clinical centers of excellence. You will see 5 or more clinical centers of excellence come online by the end of the year, maybe even by mid-fall. And we only expect that number the momentum to start growing from there. We are expanding our DNA and tissue bank. We're moving it to a new facility, to Texas Heart Institute, in order to enable us to collect different kinds of samples than what we have right now. We have tissue, we have DNA. We want to expand to do plasma and urine, other biosamples that will allow researchers to come up with the blood tests or urine tests that will help with diagnosis, that will help people know the status of their disease and maybe even predict the future as to whether or not they might be at risk in the next year or so of having a hemorrhage.
So the future of CCM, if we figure out a drug to prevent formation or regression, then the future is hopefully just taking a pill and not having needed to have a surgery. So basically, get rid of my job. That would be the goal of, and hopefully the future of CCM.
Our organization, through our members, has this critical role to play. If Angioma Alliance weren't involved in research, first off, we'd be 10 years behind where we are right now, but we'd also be taking an extra double the amount of time to move forward into where we want to be with a cure. I still firmly believe that we will have better treatments in 2025, and we will have a cure in 2030. This isn't pie in the sky. We are on that trajectory right now, and we can only do it because we have the support of our members.
I think I have the perfect setup here at Penn to provide excellent clinical work for patients, treatment for the patients, but also have an academic and research presence. I can collaborate here enormously with my partner Mark Hahn, who is an world expert in cavernoma research. So for me, it's very important to see progress in therapy for my patients directly. We have established an animal model for cavernomas in his lab, and we're currently trying to test medications who will help patients in the future with this disease.
We've developed models in the lab recently that involve adult mice and neurosurgical approaches to create lesions in adult mice. So having, the day-to-day input from neurosurgery is really valuable.
We initially discovered the genes that help identify the familial disease. Then we later identified the inflammation in the lesion, and that is very important because, like the Recursion pharma drug, is essentially an anti-inflammatory drug. So the inflammation is important, that drives bleeding and growth of the lesions. And then we identified other molecular switches that turn a benign lesion into an aggressive lesion. So, and that is key to this, I live with one versus that lesion is gonna harm my life. So we wanna be able to understand these molecular switches both as biomarkers, so we can tell the patient, is your lesion gonna remain safe or is it going to get aggressive? So there are tests that we are developing for that purpose. And also those molecular switches can be turned off by drugs. So if we know your lesion is gonna get aggressive, then maybe that's when you take the drug. So you're basically turning the lesion into a benign thing that you can live with rather than a disabling entity. Now the dream path is to restore gene function, and we have efforts going on along with researchers at Duke University to try to restore the gene function as a way so that the baby born with CCM3, for example, would never have to develop CCM.
For the Alliance to Cure Cavernous Malformations, it's important for us individuals who are affected by cavernous malformations to participate to ultimately find a cure to cavernous malformations, which is the mission of the Alliance. I'll be participating in the clinical trial with regards to atorvastatin, and hopefully it provides some support with those individuals who have cavernous malformations and trying to prevent them from hemorrhaging in the future. We're all pieces of this big puzzle, right? And each one of us who are affected by the cavernous malformations are just a tiny piece. And if we can help complete that puzzle in a quicker manner by participating and being active, then it's better for all. I'm just giving my time. It's the resource that I have available to me. It's the least that I could do to not only look out for my future, to hopefully prevent future hemorrhages, but also to help my loved ones and my family. And because, you know, they take on this burden of being my caregiver during this period. But there's also the added benefit of trying to help out others. You know, a resource that they can use in the clinical trial. Hopefully it removes others from having to experience some of the hardships that those of us who have had hemorrhages have had to endure.
It's where dreams come from, where reason lives and memories are stored. Your brain shapes you, defines you, makes you you. Yet a brain or spine condition can change that. That's why we push the boundaries of neuroscience medicine and what's possible. Consistently ranked among the best in the country, we fight to help our patients hold on to their dreams, memories, and themselves. Barrow Neurological Institute, minding what matters most.
So there are a number of drugs that are being developed, hopefully to have an effect on cavernous angiomas. There are drugs by pharmaceutical companies that are designed to stabilize the disease, make the patient's disease less aggressive. There are drugs that are particularly focused on the growing or hemorrhagic lesion. So patients would then take the drug to try to lessen the risk of bleeding or growth in the lesion. And there are drugs coming down the pipeline where the pharmaceutical companies are looking to the Alliance and to the other key opinion leaders to help them understand how best to deploy it in the space of cavernous malformations. There is another trial in this country that is funded by the National Institutes of Health that tests the cholesterol-lowering drug atorvastatin because that drug also has an effect on decreasing bleeding in cavernous angiomas. And that drug is being tested for that effect, to specifically in lesions that bled, to prevent a second bleed and avoid surgery.
Rec 994 is a drug that has just started in phase 2 clinical trials. And why is it special? We've had clinical trials in the past that started for repurposed drugs, so drugs that were approved for other things, statins for high cholesterol, propranolol for blood pressure control. This is the first drug that's being made just for our illness, for CCM. It's being made by a company called Recursion. It's been tested in healthy people, and it seems to be pretty low on the side effect spectrum. And so now it's getting its first, people with the illness are taking it for the first time. It's important for several reasons. One is because we hope that it helps our patients. But the other is that once you have one medicine get through that clinical trial process, then it becomes apparent to other industry partners that this is doable, that we are an illness that they should try to take a stab at because they could make it work. We have patients who are lined up out the door to get into the Recursion trial. They can't get them into the trial fast enough. And our patients are anxious enough to participate in other trials that we know that can happen for other companies as well. When we started Angioma Alliance, I came up with that name for two reasons. One is because I had only ever heard of the illness as cavernous angioma. That's how it was introduced to me. And then the second part was alliteration, because Angioma Alliance rolls off the tongue pretty well. Over the course of the years, there have been 3 different names that get used for the disease: cavernous angioma, cavernoma, and cavernous malformation. Finally, there's a definitive coming down around one name. The International Classification of Diseases is being issued with a code for our illness. It's never had one before, and it's being called cavernous malformation. So we are changing our name in order to match that so that we can be found, so that we can reduce confusion, and we are also becoming the Alliance to Cure Cavernous Malformation. That part, the Alliance to Cure, is because that is what our mission is.
So the future of CCM, if we figure out a drug to prevent formation or regression, then the future is hopefully just taking a pill and not having needed to have a surgery. So basically, get rid of my job. That would be the goal of, and hopefully the future of CCM.
Our organization, through our members, has this critical role to play. If Angioma Alliance weren't involved in research, first off, we'd be 10 years behind where we are right now, but we'd also be taking an extra double the amount of time to move forward into where we want to be with a cure. I still firmly believe that we will have better treatments in 2025, and we will have a cure in 2030. This isn't pie in the sky. We are on that trajectory right now, and we can only do it because we have the support of our members. Start.
So when it cut into his brain, black blood that looked like motor oil started pouring out all over the table. Like, I will always have that image in my head.
And I woke up and I was having trouble like drinking the water on my nightstand. And I was like, that's strange.
Cavernous malformation is a vascular malformation in the brain or spine.
And they are abnormally formed blood vessels.
We'd never heard cavernous angioma or cavernous malformation or any of that stuff.
And we would read books to her that other people, because she thought she was the only person in the world that had anything in their brain.
We think it's about 1% of the population have one of these lesions.
Current options are limited for us mainly to surgery or observation.
What's this going to look like when she's 20 years old? And that is incredibly scary.
It's funny what you can get used to. That's what I would say. It's strange the things that you never would have thought could be normal, and now they're normal.
Once you have one medicine get through that clinical trial process, then it becomes apparent that we are an illness that they should try to take a stab at. They could make it work.
Time and health are the two greatest currencies in the world now that we're going through this with Isabella. I wish I could give her those things.
Just hearing about the progress that's been made in the past year gets me extremely hyped up about it.
It could mean a quality of life for her. It is a life-saving thing to find a cure for CCM.
Greetings from the UVA Center of Excellence for Cavernous Malformations. It's an honor to partner with the Alliance to Cure Cavernous Malformations to help sponsor this event. We're very proud of our multidisciplinary team of clinicians who help our patients make the best decisions for their care. We've also been active with ongoing clinical and basic science research to find novel strategies for cavernous malformations. Once again, thank you very much for allowing us to help sponsor this year's Promise 2022 event.
I want to thank you all for watching for this period of time and for participating by giving your donations or bidding on auction items. I hope you won the one that you were bidding on. I also hope that if you're, again, at a party with other people, that you will enjoy the rest of your day. Our Angioma Alliance parties are some of the best parties out there from what I understand. And if you are with your loved ones at a watch party at home, please have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the support and the love and the energy that you put into our work every day.